Welcome to the program. Kenyan Supreme Court Judge Justice Philip Tonoi, who is accused of receiving a 200 million shilling bribe from Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, says he has never met Kidero nor his accuser Geoffrey Kiplagat. Tonoi, who says he has not been formally informed of the allegations against him, is attributing his current tribulations to the succession wars for the position of Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice and the composition of the highest court in the land during the 2017 general election. KTN's senior reporter Rita Tinina spoke to Justice Tonoi, one of the longest-serving judges in the country, who has served under 10 Chief Justices. Here is part of that interview.
I was really perturbed, and I would not hesitate to leave the judiciary immediately if my accuser can prove an iota of my wrongdoing. He may have seen me in Eldoret town where I live. He may have seen me walking in the streets of Nairobi, but I've never shaken his hand. I've never seen him. Never met Kidero physically. I've not even greeted his hand. I'm sure he must have seen me in court or anywhere, but I've never been close to him. I've never spoken to him. During the forthcoming general elections, is worrying so many people. Who are the judges who may hear the petition in the presidency case? Which judge leans towards this group? Which judge belongs to the opposition? Which judge belongs to the, or in good terms with the executive? That is the position there.
Right, the full interview by Rita Tinina is coming right up during this live newscast. Now, the big question tonight, we are asking you ahead of tomorrow's special sitting of the JSC, have these allegations affected your confidence in the Kenyan Supreme Court? Big question tonight, have the allegations affected your confidence in the Kenyan Supreme Court? Feel free to tell us what you think by sharing your opinion on our SMS line 22155. That conversation will be allowed on Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is KTN Prime. Right, now the new President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to be in Eldoret tomorrow with a high-profile guest to condole with the families of Kenya Defence Forces soldiers who died in Somalia. Let's now join KTN's Mercy Kandia in Eldoret. Mercy, good evening.
Good evening, Ben.
What should we expect tomorrow?
Yes, Ben. Tomorrow, three heads of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta will be hosting here from Eldoret, Nigeria's President Buhari and the President of Somalia. And as the three presidents condole with the families of the fallen soldiers at the recent attack in Elade, Somalia, we talked to families who are telling us one thing they want from tomorrow's is more information on the whereabouts of the kin. Listen in to this story. Mary Kutan tries to explain the much she knows about the whereabouts of her son. It's such phone calls that make her day, of relatives and friends checking up. And even when she finally sits down for an interview, she gets lost in thought. Her daughter-in-law traveled to Nairobi, not for DNA sampling, but what they believed was a closer place to information than Eldoret.
Tumekaa tulali atukuli mpaka msichana ameamua mwenyewe tu hajapata habari yoyote, ameenda Nairobi na hata akiwa huko hatujapata habari yoyote. But
since her son's wife traveled to Nairobi, she has not yet got any useful information. On Wednesday, President Uhuru Kenyatta is visiting the military base in Eldoret for a mass with the family. And when we ask her if she'll attend the event, she answers with little enthusiasm.
Tulisikia ilikuwa ni leo, lakini sasa hatuna habari ya kesho. Kama tutapata habari ya kesho tutaenda ili tusikie jambo ambayo itaendelea. Kwa hivyo hiyo jambo tumekuwa na tuna uchungu sana.
Even then, Mary tries to act normal and get her life back together, but it's not easy, she says. In the meantime, she keeps herself busy. requesting for a faster relay of information from the government.
Kwa hivyo tunataka serikali atusaidie sana. Hata kwa hii wiki tu jamani, ingewezekana tupate ripoti kamili ili tuone uamuzi wa serikali na tuone matokeo ni nini jamani.
Her sentiments shared by many other families whose kin are still missing after the Somalia Elade attack, the soldiers from the 9KR barracks in Eldoret. So, the mass expected to be at the military base in Eldoret, hopefully the families say, will offer some information, some solace as they wait. Mercy Kandie, KTN News, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County.
Thank you, Mercy Kandi. Mercy Kandi there in Eldoret. Mercy will be covering that special service in Eldoret tomorrow for you. In other news, the Kenyan Ministry of Education has declared illegal and irrelevant the Kenya National Parents Association, whose vocal Secretary General is Musau Ndunda. The Education Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, has written to Musau Ndunda telling him that his association's constitution and bylaws are not in sync with the Basic Education Act, meaning that the association does not represent Kenyan parents. As a consequence, the Cabinet Secretary has directed the Principal Secretary for Basic Education to immediately instruct all county directors of education to stop remittances to the association from schools under the Education Ministry.
Standing for something, not everybody will accept what you are doing, because like us, we have you look at our objective, and our objective is to advance the rights of parents and their children in the education sector.
Anawatetea namna gani? Na yeye ni mdomo tu kwa studio, kwa barabara. Hatujajua nani alichagua yeye kwanza, kitu ya kwanza tujue yeye nasimamia wazazi pande gani.
Somehow somebody should be telling us who created Musau Ndunda, if not the Ministry of Education.
Musau Ndunda there speaking to KTN earlier this month. Now, AMISOM Acting Force Commander Major General Nakibus Lakara has visited the El Ade military base in Somalia, where an unknown number of Kenyan soldiers were killed by the Al-Shabaab militants. The commander says that AMISOM will strike back at the terrorist group with an even more lethal force. KTN's Moremi Mwangi now reports.
These natural sights and sounds of oblivious birds chirping in the air were what welcomed AMISOM Acting Force Commander Major General Nakibus Lakara and his men to what was a few weeks ago a slaughter field, atrocities whose remains are still all clear at the ill-fated El Ade KDF military base in southern Somalia. But General Nakibus now says the strike, which is by far the worst Al-Shabaab hit at AMISOM forces in the recent past, has now more than ever before renewed his soldiers' resolve to get rid of the Al-Shabaab.
This is the time to ensure that that support is consolidated, that we are invigorated, we are emboldened to pursue this enemy to wherever he goes.
This visit was aimed at assessing the general situation of the base, and in particular to make an appraisal on the ongoing recovery operations by AMISOM troops, whom he says retook the base after the attack.
It is important for the Somali people to note that this happened, but AMISOM is back on the ground.
BBC had earlier reported that KDF soldiers had pulled out of the ill-fated base, to the report quoted a Kenyan army spokesman as saying that the troops had only undertaken a normal operation maneuver and not a withdrawal as alleged.
AMISOM is not a peacekeeping mission. AMISOM is a war-fighting mission. So from deployment, you know you've come to fight. And in a fight, of course, there are casualties. But what is important for AMISOM is to ensure that those casualties are to the minimum.
The Kenyan government has remained mum over the number of soldiers killed in the attack. Moremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Kenyan Supreme Court Judge Justice Philip Tonoi, who is accused of receiving a 200 million shilling bribe from Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero says he has never met Kidero nor his accuser, Geoffrey Kiplagat. Tonoi, who says he has not been formally informed of the allegations against him, is attributing the current tribulations to the succession wars for the position of Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice and the composition of the highest court in the land during the 2017 general election. KTN's senior reporter Rita Tinina spoke to Justice Tonoi, one of the longest serving judges in Kenya, who has served under 10 Chief Justices. Rita began by asking Tonoi if he has ever met his accuser.
I've never met him personally or at close range. When I was informed that he lives in Chepkorio, I recall that I've done harambees in schools and in churches in Chepkorio or in his home area. Otherwise, apart from that, he may have seen me in Eldoret town where I live. He may have seen me walking in the streets of Nairobi, but I've never shaken his hand. I've never seen him personally.
Your accuser has described your office quite elaborately. How is that so if you haven't met him?
The office is open. Even during my absence, upcountry or if I go on leave, it is mandatory for the offices of judges, of chambers of judges to be open. Again, I hear matters here in chambers. Certain applications in the Supreme Court are heard by judges in chambers, and we allow advocates to come with their parties, to come with the litigants. So it is possible he has accompanied some advocates into my chambers because I'm told he knows how he has described my chambers.
What of the governor of Nairobi, Evans Kidero?
I've never met Kidero physically. I've not even greeted his hand. I'm sure he must have seen me in court or anywhere, but I've never been close to him. I've never spoken to him. And I've seen him on pictures on TV. And that is the farthest the relationship has gone to. The Kidero case was heard by 7 judges, all the judges of the Court of Appeal. We wrote one judgment, and it was read in portions by us. That is, one judge read about 4 pages, another one 5 pages, another one 4, and that is all. We wrote one judgment, all of us, and signed it, all of us together. It was unanimous.
The Chief Justice is set to convene a sitting over the allegations facing you. Have you been formally informed about them? Do you know what exactly you're up against?
Apart from what I've seen in the media, no one has served me with the allegations made against me by Geoffrey Kiplagat. The Judicial Service Commission nor the Chief Justice has not given me any report. He has not asked me about my side of the story or what I had to say about the allegations.
You have risen through the ranks in the judiciary. You have survived the purge on the judiciary back in 2004. That was known as the radical surgery. 4 years ago, you survived vetting by the Judges and Magistrates Board. Have you ever received a bribe in your career in the judiciary?
I've never taken a bribe in my life. And such allegations as this have never been made against me nor my family. And each one of us shed tears. because the accuser came from nowhere. We owe him nothing, and what he's saying looks outrageous to the extreme.
The amount of money you are alleged to have received in this bribe, a colossal amount of money, I must say.
I cannot imagine in my mind that I can make such an amount of money in my life. Furthermore, I cannot envisage any judge remaining here for a single day, even if a fraction of that amount is given to him or her. When I retire from the bench after 30 years, I will be entitled to a lump sum of 22 million shillings. And that is all which I am worth after 30 years on the bench. When I joined the judiciary, we used to earn 22,000 shillings a month. It went up to this time. A judge of the Supreme Court is earning something like 750,000 shillings. It is impossible to save much. I have in the bank a total of 15 million shillings, that is all. I hope to take that home and retire on it and live on my goats and sheep.
Why you? Why now? I mean, what do you make of all this? What could be behind it? Who could be behind it?
The cause of the current tribulations which I'm undergoing are caused by the issue of succession within the rank of the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, and me, the senior member of the Supreme Court. The position and the membership of the Supreme Court in 2017, during the forthcoming general elections, is worrying so many people. Who are the judges who may hear the petition in the presidency case? Which judge leans towards this group? The people who want me to be out of the judiciary know that the judgment of the retirement case is coming on 29th January. If it is successful, then I'll stay in the judiciary for quite some time. And those ones who are aspiring to take over from me are not happy about it. And I have been reliably informed that on Saturday and Sunday, a group of lawyers and 2 judges, whom I'll not name, have been coaching the accuser, Geoffrey Kiplagat, in one hotel, and they have been drafting and correcting the affidavit which he swore against me. There is also the question of the competition between judges from the old Rift Valley province who are wanting to take over from me. There are about 9 of them, and some of them even would wish me dead so that they take over from me. Some have refused to greet me since I refused to retire at the age of 70. One particular one is really very disturbed, and told me that I would regret if I remained beyond the age of 70, and this is exactly what is happening.
You're currently pushing to have your stay on the bench extended after you attained the retirement age of 70 last year. These allegations, how do they impact if you survive, or if the judgment on retirement is in your favor? How does this impact on your sunset years in the judiciary?
On my own part, I would not want to remain in the judiciary if I feel that I have disobeyed my oath of office. Because a judge has got a lifestyle to follow, he's got an oath to protect, and he's got personal integrity to look after. So when these allegations were made, I was really perturbed, and I would not hesitate to leave the judiciary immediately if my accuser can prove an iota of my wrongdoing or my disobedience of the oath.
Several bloggers are expected to appear tomorrow morning at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to answer to charges of various alleged crimes, among them misusing licensed telecommunications gadget to issue false information. The bloggers, about 8 in number, however, insisting that their summonses are a strategic move by the government to intimidate the law, to say they are being targeted for being critical about the Jubilee administration. Timothy Otieno has details.
It was a dramatic culmination of what has been a tough 2 weeks for bloggers in Kenya. Blogger Anthony Njoroge Mburu, alias Waime Mburu, was released by the Mombasa court after his arrest last week. He was accused of posting on Facebook derogatory statements against Kiambu Governor William Kabogo, whom he alleged was operating a substandard poultry business in Kwale County. There was drama at the court during Njoroge's appearance. Njoroge's supporters were led by Kabogo's fierce rival Ferdinand Waititu. The arrest and subsequent release of journalist turned blogger Yasin Juma appearing to be the straw that broke the camel's back, releasing an avalanche of police summons on 9 other bloggers accused of going against the content of the Information and Communication Act. The 9, among them Cyprian Nyakundi, Patrick Msafari, Seth Odongo, Charles Ndienya, Anthony Mburu, Eddie Ila, Felix G. Cod, George Nyongesa and Robert Alai are accused of contravening the Information and Communications Act. But Robert Alai, one of the summoned bloggers, is raising concern over what he terms as government's unrelenting quest in ensuring bloggers who appear to critique it are silenced completely.
Even the arrest of Yasin Juma, I was checking the timeline of Yasin Juma. I've been looking for the wrong things he did. It is so wrong that the government can try to target a journalist just because of doing what he's trained to do. It's like jailing a doctor because he treated a malaria patient. This is what the journalists are trained to do. They're trained to inform the people. These are professional journalists. He was not posting any bad picture. So why do you arrest him? Why do you take yourself through all this stress of being portrayed badly? Then you say that the media report the government negatively. It is not the media, it's the government reporting itself negatively.
Section 29 of the Information and Communication Act stipulates that a person who by means of a licensed telecommunication system sends a message that he knows to be false for the purposes of causing annoyance, inconvenience or needless anxiety to another person commits an offence and shall be liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 50,000 shillings or a jail term not exceeding 3 months or both.
The government is trying to misuse an act which is itself illegal. You know, the Communication Act, the Section 29B of the Kenya Communication Act, Cap 411, it's very wrong to indicate that, you can be taken to a police station for causing personal annoyance. using a license. You know, Twitter is not even a licensed telecommunication equipment.
The blogger's statement seemingly being echoed by opposition legislators who are accusing government of witch hunt.
Jubilee has employed every trick in the books to curtail civil liberties, including media freedom, as a way of entrenching its rule over the people.
We cannot accept that kind of reversal. It's totally unacceptable to keep somebody while you are still fishing around or trying to get charges or trying to make charges that are proper.
But the Inspector General of Police remains adamant that the bloggers indeed have broken the law, and he wants them to answer to their crimes without shifting blame.
They broke the law and they know it. There is legitimate reportage, there is legitimate exercise of freedom of whatever you want to do, but there are limits. You don't cross certain lines. You break the law, obviously, you know, you become guests of these officers next to me. So when you are invited, don't blame the officers, you blame yourself.
The bloggers will be heading to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations under the stewardship of lawyer James Sorengo on Wednesday. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Residents of Embu's Dallas Estate today woke up to the disturbing news that a middle-aged man had murdered a 6-year-old son and attempted to take his own life by consuming poison. They said that Edward Robert Mukuria had quarreled with his wife, Jacqueline Mukuria, and left in a huff with his young son, only to later brutally slash him. The wife had the previous night tried in vain to enlist the help of the police. When the officers did visit the home to investigate the matter this morning, it was too late and the boy had already been murdered. Members of the public who witnessed the quarrel at their shop last evening said the boy's life could have been saved if the police had acted quickly.
Today in the morning, she came and reported the matter at the police station. She was suspecting that the boy is not safe. So immediately police visited the scene at Dallas, where they found the young boy, aged 6 years, had been killed by slaughtering with a knife. The person who committed the offense also attempted to take poison to commit suicide. So he was lying unconscious on the ground, and immediately he was rushed to the hospital for treatment.
Sad story from Embu there. Many thanks for staying with us here on KTN Prime. After this quick break, KTN's Abi Agina will be bringing you the latest from the world of business. Stand by for that.
And many thanks for keeping it KTN Prime. Time now to catch up with the latest from the business world. My name is Abi Agina. Well, financial services firm Britam has expressed that it would prefer if a Kenyan investor could take up the 20.3% stake previously held by Mauritian businessman Dawood Rawat. In an interview with KTN Business, Britam Group CEO Benson Wairegi acknowledged that they were in talks with the Mauritian government, which is currently holding on to Dawood's stake, after it emerged that the businessman was running a Ponzi scheme in the country. Here's a teaser of that interview, and the full installment will be on KTN Business Today show on Wednesday. Of course, we saw Britam issuing a profit warning and also other developments around the share price, as well as what happened with one of the directors, Dawood, and perhaps looking at the future. How certain are you that you'll be able to make a turnaround?
Dawood Rawat had no responsibility over the management of this company. He only had 2 board seats out of 11 directors. And that's not enough for him to influence the decision making. So for us, the business continues to operate the way it used to operate. And whenever the government of Mauritius decides what they want to do with the share, they will contact us, and together we have agreed to work together with the government of Mauritius to see that value is built and not destroyed.
In the event that, assuming an agreement comes through, are we likely to see chances of a local investor buying into that stake?
That would be our wish. Britain has been in this country for the last 50 years. It has benefited from the goodwill of Kenyans. 99% of our customer base is local. So even as we are a Pan-African Financial Services Group, we are a Kenyan brand. And that is what we would want to see. Kenyans, citizens, Kenyan institutions owning this investment for the good of the country. So whatever happens, we would hope that ultimately the stake will be owned by Kenyans.
Of course, you can catch that full interview on our business show tomorrow from 2 p.m. Do make a date with us. Well, moving on, after the upheaval that was the year 2015, experts are anticipating a more balanced year in 2016 as the economy recovers from the rigors exerted last year. According to experts at CFC Stanbic, the country should witness a gradual uptick of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, a more stable shilling and a low inflation in 2016. And they have revised upwards their growth estimate from 5.3% to 5.7%. KTN's Adelaide Changole spoke to CFC Stanbic's regional economist for East Africa, Gibran Qureshi, on his outlook for the new year.
CFC Stanbic has just issued its economic outlook for 2016, and we're joined by the regional economist for East Africa, Gibran Qureshi, to give us a picture of what they anticipate for this year and going forward. Thank you so much for joining us, Gibran.
2015 was a challenging environment, not just at home but also globally. The currency was obviously under pressure from the broad-based dollar strength from the US. Inflation was pretty range-bound, but from time to time the secondary round effects from the weaker shilling did get it above target. But I think overall, looking into 2016, it's going to be a much better year, not just in terms of growth but also in terms of currency stability. There could be some inflationary pressures in the first quarter of this year, but that would be largely based on food inflation pressures.
Okay. Talked about the Fed rate hike quite a lot last year. It happened. It didn't have the impact everyone thought it was going to have.
The December rate hike was more date dependent, but going forward it's going to be more data dependent. And with the crash in global commodity prices, inflation in the US probably won't get to the 2% target anytime soon. So because of that, we expect the Fed to only move twice this year. I don't think we're going to see the scale of depreciation we saw in 2015 this year. It's going to be a more measured depreciation. Central banks obviously built a war chest of FX reserves, so they have more ammunition to ensure that any weakness is gradual and very orderly. I think more so looking at 2015, there was significant financial outflows from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I think at some point in time this year is probably going to reverse course. That should be positive for the shilling. And I think there could be a decent recovery in the tourism sector.
What is your outlook for 2016?
2016, we expect growth to expand by 5.7%. That's up from an estimated 5.3% in the previous year. Now the reality is that what's expanding GDP is the construction sector, more closely linked to the public investment in infrastructure. What are the pitfalls we have to look out for? The biggest risk to us for the outlook is fiscal slippage. Back to the fact that it's a pre-election year. We need to ensure that we don't grow at the expense of macroeconomic instability. Expansionary fiscal policy could drive growth, but at some point in time, you need to ensure that you're prudent to actually send a positive signal to both local investors and foreign investors.
We were speaking to Gibran Qureshi, who was telling us about the economic outlook for 2016. Thank you so much for joining us. He's very optimistic, 5.7%, but says, agriculture might not do so well in the first quarter, but he's anticipating, great returns going forward in the second half as the NSE picks up and as the agricultural sector picks up. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Adelaide Changole, and it's back to studio.
Well, they're an interesting conversation with Gibran Qureshi. Many thanks, Adelaide Changole. Moving on now. Well, Kenya has got an IMF extension where the government has received an extension on its $680 million standby credit loan secured from the International Monetary Fund back in February 2015. The extension is expected to create a platform for Treasury and the IMF to discuss the possibility of a new facility with similar features. The government last year lobbied for an insurance-type loan to help deal with unforeseen shocks that could threaten economic stability in 2015, like stabilizing the currency. The Central Bank of Kenya calmed volatility in the markets last year after hiking its benchmark lending rate by 3 percentage points to 11.5%, which increased foreign reserves without turning to the IMF standby loan. According to Kenya's IMF representative, Kenya's ability to stabilize the economy despite pressure from external markets strengthened a case for a new standby loan. The IMF expects Kenya's economy to grow by 6%, up from 5.6% estimated in 2015. Well, and with that, that's how we end KTN Business News. And I'll leave you with the day's financial report. The shilling still not up there. It's trading now at about 102. Of course, we continue to keep our eyes on how it continues to perform in the coming days. My name is Abi Agina, and many thanks for keeping it KTN Business. Let's do this tomorrow, same time, same place.
Welcome to KTN Sports. Football Kenya Federation conducted its branch elections countrywide with 280 delegates taking part in the polling process. Michael Ouma Majwa and Bashir Hussein from Nairobi East and Nairobi West respectively were crowned winners in Nairobi as a majority of branches conducted the polls without any hitches. KTN's Robinson Okenye was keeping an eye on that.
After weeks of anticipation and uncertainty, finally it was time for the Football Kenya Federation candidates at branch level to know their fate as different stakeholders went to the ballot to elect their preferred candidates. Contrary to the norm that has always been stamped on the branch elections in terms of violence, this year's elections ran smoothly.
Well, I think the election has been very peaceful as far as I'm concerned. There was a lot of expectation in terms of what everyone was thinking about is going to be very explosive.
So wale watu wanaleta shida wako hapa. Then kuna a lot of order na security.
After hours of waiting in different branches, it was time to know who prevailed in different categories. In Nairobi West branch, newcomer Bashir Hussein was the man of the moment after victory over 4 other opponents.
It was good planning. We had a team that was doing the campaigns. And the good job that we did in the previous branch that has given us the win. Ningependa sana nilete watu wangu wote kwa pamoja, tushirikiane, tutengeneze hii branch mpya na mpira yetu ibadilike.
Kulingana na zile mikakati nilikuwa nimeweka, nilikuwa na imani kwamba ndashinda. Nilikuwa na imani kwa sababu unajua kwa kila kitu sisi wenyewe hatuna uwezo bali ni Mungu.
In Nyeri, however, things were a little bit dramatic after returning officer imposed rules that did not resonate well with the voters.
And if there is any illiterate person who is going to claim so, then he's going to be represented by the correct agent.
In Kisumu, George Ongudi retained his seat as the Nyanza North chairman after getting 36 votes, 4 more votes better than his opponent. In Nakuru, the script was the same as the delegates carried out peaceful elections, as Kenneth Kiprop was named the winner with 66 votes. In Kakamega, Patrick Lubembe was announced the winner after trouncing his opponent in the hotly contested seat.
The duly elected person is Patrick Lurembe.
The Institute for Education and Democracy, which is in charge of overseeing the election, was pleased by the way the exercise was conducted. The national elections are set for the 10th of February. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Organizers of the first Laffy Half Marathon are targeting an increased number of participants for this year's race. The race that enters its third edition this year will be held on the 6th of March. The 2016 edition was launched Tuesday morning, where the First Lady registered as the marathon's first participant. There will be no adjustments to the course, with the Nyayo National Stadium serving as a start and finish. The event attracted over 50,000 participants last year, with the number expected to rise to 70,000 this year. First Half Marathon and the Beyond Zero campaign aims at raising funds to successfully equip all counties with at least one mobile clinic to aid in eradicating child mortality. The First Lady called on Kenyans to register for the event in large numbers for either the 21-kilometer, the 10-kilometer and 5-kilometer races.
You can turn that t-shirt again, Your Excellency, for the number, so that the media can capture the number. Number 0001. And there she has received her t-shirt. Count on me! Another round of applause. We're counting. Yes. Thank you. And as they remain there.
Today I launch the third edition of the First Lady's Half Marathon 2016. On March 6th, I will run to heighten awareness, widen our partnerships, resources, and increase collective action to accelerate the efforts towards the goal of zero preventable deaths.
I saw a good number of my female colleagues saying we can count on them. I hope I'll see them on the track. Kenyan Premier League players will have all the reasons to strive to be outstanding in their respective clubs, with the hunt for the Sports Journalist Association Player of the Month expected to deepen. The prize for the Player of the Month will this season be doubled from the initial 50,000 shillings to 100,000 shillings following a 2-year partnership between the Sports Journalists Association of Kenya and electronics good manufacturer LG. The 2-year sponsorship is worth 5 million Kenya shillings. The awards were founded last year and mainly focus on motivating Kenyan footballers through rewarding and recognizing outstanding Kenyan Premier League performers. So embattled Supreme Court Judge Justice Philip Tonoi has spoken out tonight, saying he is innocent. He is alleged to have received a 200 million Kenya shillings bribe from Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero. On the big question tonight, we are asking you, have these allegations affected your confidence in the Kenyan Supreme Court? Very quickly, some of your views here. Jay Macau says Justice Tonoi is innocent. Someone is just behind all this. William Agembo, the Supreme Court isn't as corrupt as any other arm of the government. Fitan Dinya on Twitter says, no, these are just allegations. Tonoi looks innocent. He must be listened to. Mulunje on Twitter says, yes, if corruption allegations are taking place in the highest court, then we're heading in the wrong direction. Maseme Machuka says, this is an orchestrated succession battle in the judiciary. The GIC should delicately deal with the issue. And finally, Evans Ingoi on Twitter says, judges should be men and women beyond reproach. If bribery is proved, then justice is on sale in my motherland. Many thanks for your SMSs and tweets and for joining us on KTN Prime. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.